Greetings everyone, DonTheCrown here, and today I want to talk a little bit about why this is kind of going to be the Herald League and what's going on exactly, how this Herald stacking is working, why is it strong, why is it OP. But first we're going to show you a little bit of example here on my Blade Vortex character, what people are actually doing to really be super powerful. And this is just a Blade Vortex Assassin build that is really taking advantage of all this stacking. And basically, on this build, I'm using all 5 Heralds, and they're barely costing me any mana in order to run all of them because of some of the cluster jewels that we're running. Now this is a mechanic that GG has commented on, and they actually kind of buffed in the last patch, and they said that they will not be nerfing this until probably 3.11. So this is definitely something that we're probably going to get to experience during Delirium League, but probably not at all after this point. There's lots of different builds that can take advantage of Herald stacking. It doesn't necessarily need to be a build like this. But things like that use Headhunter or any other type of buff grabbing is going to be probably the best builds, with Inspired Learning, for example, being another option as well. Now, as you notice, my character got really fast there and is just blowing everything up pretty easily. We're at about Delve Depth 221 here. This is item level 83 monsters, so this is definitely not like super duper shallow delve or anything. But what we're using is new cluster jewels, and these cluster jewels are found on the medium cluster jewels that are either of increased damage while affected by Herald, and I believe there's also a minion one as well. And basically the cluster jewels that people are really taking advantage of are these two nodes, Heraldry and Purposeful Harbinger. Now what Purposeful Harbinger does is it gives you 10% increased effect of aura buffs on you for each herald that's affecting you. And so there are up to 5 heralds, so if you have all 5 heralds on you, you get 50% increased effect of aura buffs on you for each Purposeful Harbinger you have. So that's not all that crazy, except some people are using 6 Purposeful Harbingers, some even more, to achieve 300 plus buff effect on their character. That's why it gets a little bit nuts. The other one that you're using here is Heraldry, increases the effect of your Herald buffs on you, and in 10% reduced mana reservation of Herald skills. I'm using 5 of these, so that makes it so that my Heralds are all reserving very little mana. So for example here, my Herald of Thunder is reserving 5% mana. The other mod that a lot of people are using is Endbringer. Now what Endbringer does, it gives you 25% increased damage for each Herald affecting you. So since there's once again 5 Heralds times 25, that's 125% increased global damage for each Endbringer you have. I'm personally using 4 right now. So this works together with a unique large cluster jewel called Voices. This right now is quite expensive. I believe about 50 exalts. I paid 70 for mine last night. The price is kind of coming down a little bit. We'll have to see if that stabilizes or if it keeps going down or goes back up. What this does is it gives you 3 jewel socket passives, and it has a range of either 1 to 7 passives that do nothing. I have another Voices over here that has 5 small passives that do nothing, and so you can kind of see they get in the way of being able to get all the clusters pretty easily. And as you can assume here, we have Purposeful Harbinger and Heraldry. Purposeful Harbinger, Heraldry. We're also taking an additional jewel socket here, so this is also an opportunity to grab a bunch of life and resistances and damage. Purposeful Harbinger, Heraldry, Purposeful Harbinger, Heraldry, all over the place. And then once I have enough of these Purposeful Harbingers, I didn't need to go past 6, and I went up and got Endbringers as well. Endbringer over here, and then I got Heraldry Endbringer, Heraldry Endbringer, Heraldry Endbringer. And so that's quite a bit. So if you remember, each Endbringer is giving you 125% increased damage. Well, I have 4 of them, so that's 500% increased damage just across the board. And that includes things like an exploding chest. So when enemies kill explode, that's going to be multiplied by that Endbringer damage. It's also going to multiply my Blade Vortex damage. It's also going to multiply all of my Heralds damage, which are also getting buffed by heraldry and things. And so that's really, really ridiculous. Now you might be thinking to yourself, okay, Don, but like, how much is this going to cost? Well, Purposeful Harbinger heraldry jewels right now are looking to be about like 300, 350 chaos. Ones that have Purposeful Harbinger and Endbringer about, they're kind of moving around a little bit, but maybe like about an Exalt or so. And then ones that are heraldry and Endbringer are actually pretty cheap, a little bit less than an Exalt. And then Voices jewels, if you're getting a Voices that has 5 small passives, which is decent, like you're definitely going to lose a few passive points with that. These are price fixed, but they're probably closer to about 16 to 17 Exalts right now. And then the ones that have 3 small passives, like I bought mine last night for 70, right now they're somewhere between 50 or something. I'd have to actually like ping these guys to try to buy them to see if they're fixed or not. And then the thing that really makes the entire build sing is Solstice Visual. Now you might be noticing that Solstice Visual has seen a marked increase in price here over the last couple of days. And the reason for that is because Solstice Vigil gives you a buff whenever you kill a rare unique enemy. And what this buff is Shaper's Presence. Holding Alt, I can see here that Shaper's Presence is it gives you pretty much a buff that says effects on you and nearby allies. And the end nearby allies is kind of like the key word for this being an aura. It causes effects on you to expire 20% slower. And so when I have 300% buff effect on me, this makes this so it goes to the cap of 75% expanded expiry rate, basically. So what this means is that things like my Headhunter buff are going to last 4 times longer. So makes Headhunter stacks just go absolutely insane and incredibly OP. And things like, I believe, Tailwind and other things, or Golem buffs, are all multiplied by these Herald stacking shenanigans. Now, if you're a Guardian, a lot of the things in the Guardian Ascendancy are also considered auras, so it's pretty easy to get like several thousand energy shield for free for just being a Guardian and Herald stacking. So that's why you might see all this like Herald stuff going on right now, especially if you're watching different streams, different people doing Herald stacking. This is what they're talking about. If you're looking to like maybe make some of these medium cluster jewels, either 4 or 5 small passives will work, but you can basically go and alt spam these and try to regal on Heraldry or Purposeful Harbinger. If you're doing a 5, like you definitely want to have a jewel socket, but if you're doing a 5 passive skill cluster, you definitely want to have a jewel socket on the end of it, otherwise you waste a point. But stacking Purposeful Harbinger is only really good if you're going to be taking effective auras, but if you want to just stack flat increased damage, you could just stack Endbringer and Heraldry. So you could do 6 of those pretty easily, or even just 4 against 2 large cluster jewels and get quite a bit of damage for basically any build. So any build that gets a lot of flat damage could probably see some big benefits here. I've kind of been looking into maybe adding this to like a Hollow Palm Monk build. However, you're already kind of like very limited actually on your gems slots in your inventory, so it's not going to be super duper easy for you to be able to fit that in. But there's definitely lots of other builds that get a lot of flat damage where stacking Endbringers is going to be absolutely ridiculous. I have a 5 link in my chest for most of my Heralds that are all being linked to an Enlightened 4. I'm kind of stacking my Herald of Ash to really empower that as much as possible, because I am converting most of my physical damage to fire. But you don't have to do that. There's lots of different things you can do. And other auras I'm kind of running right now are like Precision Aura. And you can kind of see the effects of this. If you look at like my default attack, you can see my critical strike chance is about 14%. But if I activate my Precision, which should only be granting me 46% increased critical strike chance, you can see that there's going to be quite a marked increase in my critical strike chance. It goes up by over 100%. So it takes me up to 15% flat crit. So very, very crazy stuff right now. If somebody walks into my hideout, I don't really have any energy shield or energy shield stacking. I'll just gain like 1,000 ES if they have the Discipline Aura on. And so there's lots of different things you could do with that. Looking forward to seeing what the community does once they get their hands on this and are really messing around with this. Let me know if this is something you plan to build on in the comments below. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with it. Let's run a quick actual map here. So you can kind of see the actual craziness. I'm not going to sextant this, although I should. But so this also very much makes it so that you don't have to worry about self-cursing anymore for Headhunter builds. And I believe also a lot of the Headhunter buffs count as auras, so you end up getting significant buff effect from that, and it makes you go really fast. I also have Tailwind now, since I don't have to wear Comb's Roots. I can wear different boots. And as an assassin, I'm also elusive, which does not appear to be an aura, so it's not getting scaled by this. But it's really making Headhunter very fun. I definitely don't expect for this type of gameplay to survive through the the next league, but this is definitely something that is going to be very interesting this league. I'm looking forward to seeing what types of new fun builds people will be delving with, we'll be doing bosses with. I know I've seen like a 31 million Headhunter, without any Headhunter buffs, Divine Ire Guardian build that somebody sent me. And there's a whole bunch of different things. I basically just slapped this onto a build that I was already planning on doing my curse effect for self-temp chains for Headhunter. This is my favorite part of the build though. Bye Legion. The entire thing didn't explode, but most of it did. Yeah, this is definitely not a cheap build right now. Definitely non-budget, but this is kind of just like one crazy end of where this builds are gonna go. And I've seen like 300,000 plus energy shield in this build, which is a lot higher than anything I've seen before in previous Headhunter builds. This also pretty much handles simulacrums pretty well. It's pretty rare that I have a hard time getting through all 20 waves of the simulacrum, especially because I'm using a Vol Breach to help smooth out any additional buff problems I might be having. So just pop Vol Breach, staying on top of the Metamorph, and goodbye Metamorph. Now there are definitely a bunch of different maps that I can't do. Like for example, I can't do Hologram Masters with this build because it is not really designed to boss, and I don't really have a lot of HP. And so if I don't have Headhunter buffs, I'm going to be in big trouble. But there's definitely some versions of Herald stacking that will be able to handle all content. And very much looking forward to seeing different things that people do with that, which I've probably said a million times now. But yeah, if this is something that you plan on doing, let me know in the comments below. headhunter stacking with it is very unethical, but I'm sure there's some different ways you could probably do this on somewhat of a budget. So thank you much guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.